99% of Toyota owners think their radiator is just a metal box that holds liquid. It is not. And the people who figured that out are the ones still driving the same Camry, the same Tacoma, the same Highlander past 300,000 miles without ever cracking a tank or boiling over on the highway. There's a cooling discipline Toyota's engineers built into these cars from the factory, a chemistry and a circulation rule that quietly protects the radiator, the heater core, and the water pump for the entire life of the engine. And Toyota never really told you about it. They printed it in the fine line of the maintenance schedule, mentioned it once, and let it disappear. Meanwhile, the quick lube shop down the street breaks the rule every single day and hands your car back to you with a smile. I'm going to walk you through exactly what this is, why it works, and why it's the closest thing there is to a Japanese cooling trick that saves a radiator for the long haul. Let's get into it. Start with the liquid itself, because everything else builds on it. Around 2004, Toyota stopped putting the old red coolant in most of their cars and switched to something they called super long life coolant. You know it as the pink stuff. It lives in the plastic reservoir tank on the side of your engine bay, the translucent bottle with the low and full lines on it, and it is the same fluid filling your radiator and running through every passage in the block. People look at that pink color and assume it is just dye, just marketing. It is not. That color is telling you about the chemistry, and the chemistry is the entire point. Toyota's pink coolant is built on what is called hybrid organic acid technology. In plain terms, the rust and corrosion fighters inside it are organic acids combined with a phosphate package, and just as importantly, it deliberately leaves out 4 ingredients that most cheap coolants still carry: silicates, borates, nitrites, and amines. That sounds like trivia until you understand what those 4 things do inside a modern Toyota. Here is why it matters. Your radiator, your heater core, and a lot of your engine's internal cooling passages are aluminum. Older American coolants, the conventional green stuff, used silicates to protect cast iron and copper brass radiators, which is what cars were built from decades ago. But silicates are abrasive, and they drop out of the solution over time and form a gritty gel that scrubs at water pump seals and clogs the thin passages of an aluminum radiator. Toyota engineered the pink coolant specifically around the aluminum cooling systems they actually build, using phosphates to lay down a fast, thin protective film on those aluminum surfaces without the abrasive sludge. That is the first half of the secret. The fluid is not just antifreeze. It is a corrosion management system matched to the exact metals in your car, and it is the reason a well-maintained Toyota radiator can go the distance instead of weeping at the seams at 120,000 miles. Now the part Toyota really buried, and the part the quick lube shop gets wrong constantly. The pink coolant is what is called pre-diluted. Toyota sells it as a 50-50 mix already. Antifreeze blended with deionized water right in the jug, with the part number printed on the label. They do this on purpose. The water in that bottle is mineral-free, because the mineral content in ordinary tap water, the calcium and magnesium that leaves white crust on your faucets, will slowly contaminate the long-life additives and build scale inside your cooling passages. So Toyota took the decision out of your hands. They mixed it with clean water at the factory, so the additive package could actually deliver its full lifespan. The first fill from the factory is rated for roughly 100,000 miles or 10 years before it needs changing, which is 4 times longer than the old red coolant it replaced. That number is real, And it is the whole reason the word super is in the name, but it only holds if nobody tampers with the chemistry. And that is exactly where the damage happens. Picture the most ordinary scene in the world. You pull into a quick oil change place, and the tech doing your multi-point inspection notices your coolant reservoir is a little below the line. Helpful guy. He grabs the jug of universal green or yellow coolant they keep on the shelf, the one bottle that claims to work in every car ever made, and he tops you off. He just broke the rule. Here's what he actually did. Toyota's pink coolant is technically backwards compatible with the older red, meaning you can mix them without an instant disaster. But the moment you blend the pink with the wrong chemistry, you don't keep the long life interval. The system drops back down to the old schedule, roughly 30,000 miles or 2 years, because the organic acids that give the pink its longevity get diluted by inorganic additives that don't belong there. Worse, if that universal coolant carries silicates, you've just introduced the exact abrasive Toyota spent years engineering out of your aluminum radiator and water pump. Universal coolants survive by compromise. To be compatible with everything, they water down the chemical profile, and a watered-down profile means not enough phosphate to protect your aluminum and possibly enough silicate to chew on your water pump seal. The tech thought he was doing you a favor. He quietly cut your cooling system's protected lifespan by more than half, and you drove away never knowing. So the first half of the Japanese cooling discipline is almost insultingly simple, and it's the thing nobody tells you. Only ever put Toyota Super Long Life Coolant, the pink version, or a true equivalent that explicitly meets that hybrid organic acid spec, into the system. Not green, not universal, not whatever's open on the shelf. When you check your reservoir, the translucent tank near the front of the engine bay, and you see it's low, top it with the correct pink fluid and nothing else. That single rule, followed for the life of the car, is what keeps a Toyota radiator from corroding from the inside out. If you made it this far, then consider liking this video, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing to my channel. Subscribing helps me bring you more honest car advice. But the right fluid is only half of it, and here's where we get to the part that actually separates a radiator that dies young from one that runs forever. The second half of the secret is about AIR. Specifically, it's about getting the air out. This is the step that destroys more Toyota radiators and cylinder heads than bad coolant ever will, and almost nobody outside a real Toyota service bay does it correctly. When coolant is drained and refilled, air gets trapped inside the system. It collects in the high points of the engine, in the cylinder head, around the thermostat, in the heater core that feeds warm air to your cabin. And AIR is the enemy, because air doesn't carry heat the way liquid does. Where there's a trapped air pocket, there's a spot in your engine that isn't being cooled at all. That creates a hot spot. A hot spot in an aluminum cylinder head is how you warp a head, crack a head, or blow a head gasket. And the pressure spikes from those pockets are how you split the plastic end tanks on a radiator long before their time. People who drain and refill their own coolant, or shops that rush the job, pour the new pink fluid in, see the reservoir filled to the line, screw the cap on, and call it done. Then a few miles down the road, the temperature gauge climbs toward the red, and they panic, thinking they've got a blown head gasket, when all they really have is a system full of trapped air they never bled out. Toyota knew this would happen, so on a lot of their engines, they engineered in a solution. Take the 3.5-liter V6. the engine Toyota and Lexus call the 2GRFE, the one that powered Highlanders, Siennas, Camrys, Avalons, and a long list of Lexus models for years. Toyota installed a small brass bleeder fitting on this engine, a roughly 10mm screw sitting up toward the front of the engine, placed at a high point in the cooling system for exactly one purpose: to let trapped AIR escape while you fill it. Open that bleeder valve while you are pouring coolant in through the radiator, and the air has somewhere to go. It hisses out instead of staying locked in the engine. When clean coolant with no bubbles starts weeping out of that fitting, you close it, and you know the high point of the system is full of liquid, not air. That little brass screw is a piece of deliberate engineering, and most owners don't even know it's there. The procedure that goes with it is the real Japanese cooling trick, the part that lives in the service manual and the heads of master technicians, not in your glove box owner's manual. It goes like this. You start with a stone-cold engine, never a hot one, because opening a pressurized hot cooling system is how people end up in the burn ward. You fill the system slowly. You open that bleeder valve if your engine has one. And then, before you button it up, you run the engine with the radiator cap off, and you let it idle and warm up. As the coolant heats and the thermostat opens, the level in the radiator neck will suddenly drop as fluid rushes into passages that were holding air, and you keep topping it off. The technicians take it a step further. They blip the engine up to around 2,000 RPM and hold it there for a few seconds at a time, repeating it, because raising the engine speed pushes the coolant through the block harder and physically drives the air pockets out. They squeeze the big upper and lower radiator hoses by hand, working them back and forth, which pumps the trapped bubbles loose. And they watch for one specific signal, the radiator fan cycling on and off, usually a couple of times, which confirms the thermostat has fully opened and the coolant is circulating through the entire system, not just the part the air will let it reach. On the newer version of that same V6, the one Toyota calls the 2GR FKS, they actually deleted the bleeder valve, which made the burping process harder, not easier, and is a big reason owners of those engines run into overheating after a do-it-yourself coolant change. Without the screw, you have to rely entirely on technique. Use a spill-free funnel mounted on the radiator neck. Start the engine, squeeze the hoses, hold the RPM above 2,000 in intervals, set the heater to its hottest setting on engines where that pulls coolant through the heater core, and be patient while you wait for the fan to cycle and the bubbles to stop. Different hardware, same principle. Get the air out, or the system will punish you for it. This is the entire reason a Toyota overheats right after a coolant service when it was running perfectly fine the day before. It is almost never a coincidence and almost never a failing part. It is AIR. Someone changed the coolant, never properly bled it, and sent the car back out with a pocket of air sitting in the cylinder head waiting to cook it. I have seen people drive a freshly serviced Sienna a mile at a time down the road, pulling over to let it cool, convinced their engine was dying, when the only thing wrong was a bleeder valve. Nobody opened, and a burp procedure nobody performed. The radiator was fine. The coolant was fine. The job was simply left half-finished. So put the two halves together, because that's where the 300,000-mile number actually comes from. It isn't a gadget. It isn't a secret additive you pour in. It's a discipline Toyota engineered and then mostly stopped talking about. Use only the correct pink super long life coolant or a true hybrid organic acid equivalent. Never the universal stuff off a random shelf. So the chemistry that protects your aluminum radiator and water pump stays intact and the long life interval holds. And every time that coolant is changed, get every last bubble of air out of the system using the bleeder valve your engine may have and the warm-up, rev, squeeze, and fan cycle procedure that drives the trapped air out of the cylinder head. A cooling system that always has the right fluid and never has trapped air is a cooling system that doesn't corrode, doesn't form hot spots, doesn't crack its radiator tanks, and doesn't cook its head gasket. That's how the radiator survives. That's how the engine behind it survives with it. The frustrating part is how quietly Toyota handled all of this. The pink coolant requirement is one line in the maintenance schedule. The bleeder valve isn't mentioned to owners at all. The burp procedure lives in the service manual the average driver never sees. So the cars roll out of the factory protected, and then, over a couple 100,000 miles, well-meaning quick lube techs and rushed coolant changes slowly undo the engineering, one wrong top-off and one skipped bleed at a time. The owners who beat 300,000 miles aren't lucky. They just never let anyone break the two rules. Now you know both of them, which puts you ahead of almost every Toyota owner on the road and most of the shops servicing them. If you are enjoying this video, consider watching this one next, where I am breaking down the exact maintenance schedule that pushes a Toyota engine past 400,000 miles.